Okay, let's talk elections. I know, I know. You hear that word and immediately think headlines, hot takes, the whole circus.
And it's way more interesting than people might think. We're talking about levels of detail and care that most folks wouldn't even imagine.
Seriously, we've got this incredible document from the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, and it's basically a playbook on voting system security.
Yeah, chain of custody sounds intense, but it's actually a brilliant concept. Imagine a voting machine is like that super valuable piece of art on loan to a museum.
Definitely not. It'd be locked down tight, security cameras everywhere, the whole deal.
Exactly. And that's essentially what happens with voting machines, just with even more checks and balances.
Yeah.
Every single move a machine makes, from its storage locker to the polling place and back again, is meticulously documented and witnessed, often by bipartisan teams.
Wait, hold up. Bipartisan teams. So we're talking about people from different political parties working together at every single step.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
It's like having two sets of eyes, each making sure the other doesn't miss a thing. And it's not just signing off on paperwork either.
That's wild. I had no idea it was that intense. But what about the route the machines take? Surely they don't just toss them in the back of a pickup truck, right?
Definitely not. We're talking designated routes, special containers, even video surveillance in some cases. And every single handoff is logged, documented, and witnessed.
Okay, so I'm getting a serious appreciation for this whole chain of custody thing. It's like a security system for our democracy, and every single part has a purpose.
I hear you, but honestly, one of the most fascinating things about election security is that some of the most effective measures are surprisingly low tech.
Really? Like what? Give me an example.
Let's talk about the computer that's used to program all the voting machines before an election. This is a critical piece of equipment, right? It's what sets up the entire system.
Right, so it's got to be locked down tight, state-of-the-art security, the whole 9 yards?
You'd think so, but what if I told you that one of the most important security features of this computer is that it's never, ever connected to the internet?
Wait, seriously, in this day and age, that seems almost impossible.
That's the beauty of it. By keeping this central computer completely offline, they eliminate a huge potential vulnerability. Think about it. Every device connected to the internet is a potential target for hackers.
Okay, yeah, I've gotten enough spam emails to know that's true.
Exactly. So by keeping this programming computer totally isolated, it's like they've built a digital fortress around it. No outside access, no chance of remote tampering.
That is wild. It's like something out of a spy movie, but instead of stealing secrets, they're protecting our votes.
Precisely. And that's just one example. We haven't even touched on the different types of voting machines,
Yeah.
how the ballots are tallied, the role of poll workers.
Okay, hold on. Before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about those poll workers. I feel like they're the unsung heroes of this whole election process, but I don't really know much about what they actually do.
Oh, they are absolutely crucial. They're the ones interacting with voters, making sure everything runs smoothly, and they play a huge role in maintaining security at the polls.
So it's more than just checking names off a list.
Way more. These folks go through extensive training on everything from election laws and procedures to how to identify and address potential security issues.
Okay, so they're not just handing out I voted stickers. These poll workers sound like they've got a seriously important job.
They absolutely do.
Yeah.
And remember how we talked about bipartisan teams being involved in every step? Well, that extends to the polling place as well. You'll often have poll workers from different parties working side by side.
Makes sense. It's like having a built-in checks and balances system right there at the precincts level.
Exactly. And it's not just about preventing intentional wrongdoing either. Having multiple sets of eyes means they can catch honest mistakes too.
Right.
Like if a ballot gets jammed in the scanner,
Oh, right, yeah.
or someone forgets to sign the poll book or something.
Yeah.
Those things can be caught and corrected immediately.
Sure. So it's all about reducing the potential for errors, no matter how small.
Precisely. Every detail matters when it comes to something as important as our elections. And here's something else that surprised me. Did you know that in many places, these processes are actually open for public observation?
Wait, seriously, I can just show up and watch the whole thing.
You got it. It might not be as glamorous as watching the election results roll in on TV,
Yeah, definitely not.
but it's a fascinating way to see democracy in action. And it's another layer of transparency that helps ensure everything is above board.
So if someone really wanted to, they could literally follow the journey of their vote from the moment they cast their ballot to the moment it's officially counted.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our source even mentions that some jurisdictions have what they call citizen audit programs, where everyday people can volunteer to help verify election results.
That's amazing. I never realized how much access the public actually has to these processes. But okay, let's go back to that journey you were talking about. The one our vote takes once we cast our ballot.
All right, so imagine you've just filled out your ballot, whether it's on a touchscreen machine or a good old-fashioned paper ballot, and you feed it into that magical box that records your democratic voice.
I'm imagining it right now, feeling very official and important.
As you should. Now that ballot, along with all the others cast that day, gets collected in those tamper-evident containers we talked about earlier. And remember, those seals stay put, ensuring nothing's been tampered with, until the polls close and the votes are ready to be counted.
So it's like my ballot is getting VIP treatment at this point.
Exactly. And the journey's not over yet. Teams, again, at least 2 people, often from different parties, will then transport those sealed containers following predetermined routes with documentation every step of the way.
And this is where those 22 months of storage come in, right? I remember reading about that in the document, but I wasn't quite sure what it meant.
Right. After the election, those materials, ballots, sign-in sheets, all of it are securely stored, often under lock and key and video surveillance, for over a year, just in case a recount is needed or if any questions arise.
That's a lot longer than I would have guessed.
It might seem like overkill, but it's all about having that paper trail, that chain of custody to back everything up. It's about being able to answer any questions and address any concerns that might come up, even months after the election is over.
Okay, so after those 22 months, what happens to all that stuff?
Well, assuming there are no legal challenges or recounts, most election materials are eventually securely destroyed. But here's something else that's interesting. In many places, the official vote counting process itself is open for public observation too.
Wait, seriously, so you're telling me I could go and watch as the ballots are tallied? Like a live in-person version of election night on TV?
You got it. And while it might not be as flashy as what you see on TV, it's actually a really important part of the process.
Okay, so it's not exactly a Hollywood premiere, but I'm guessing the crowd is a little smaller and a lot more focused on the details.
Exactly. And those details matter. Remember we talked about the canvas earlier. This is where it all comes together. Election officials meticulously compare the number of ballots cast with the number of voters checked in,
Right.
making sure everything lines up.
So it's like a final check, making sure all the numbers make sense?
Precisely. And if there are any discrepancies, even small ones, they're investigated and documented. This is all part of that commitment to accuracy and transparency we keep talking about.
And it's all in the open for anyone to see.
That's right. And once the canvas is complete and any discrepancies are resolved, then and only then are the results certified as official.
Wow, so many steps. It's like this incredible journey our vote takes from that moment we fill out our ballot to the moment those final results are announced.
It truly is a journey and a testament to the layers of safeguards that are in place to protect our elections.
This deep dive has been eye-opening, to say the least. It's one thing to hear people talk about election security, but it's another thing entirely to understand the meticulous procedures and the dedication of the people involved.
Absolutely. And the best part is, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's always more to learn, more ways to get involved,
Right.
and more to think about when it comes to safeguarding our democracy.
You're right, and that's what makes it all so fascinating. So as we wrap things up, I have to ask, what are some things we didn't get to cover today that you think are worth exploring further? Give us some homework.
Oh, there are so many directions we could go. For example, we focused on the U.S. system.
Right.
But what about election security in other countries? How do their processes compare?
Ooh, good question. Or what about the role of technology? We talked about the offline programming computer, but what about online voting? Is that even a possibility in the future?
Now, those are conversations I'd love to have. And I bet our listeners have even more questions and ideas.
I'm sure they do. So, to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the intricate world of election security. We hope you learned something new and maybe even feel inspired to get a little more curious about how your vote is protected.
And remember, staying informed is an ongoing process, so keep asking questions, stay engaged, and let's keep those conversations going.
Absolutely. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to check out our show notes for links to the resources we talked about, plus some additional reading on the topic.
And don't forget to subscribe to The Deep Dive wherever you get your podcasts, so you never miss an episode.
Until next time, stay curious.